Before this day begins, before the world tells you who you are, before circumstances attempt to define your mood, pause. Right now, in this quiet moment, you are standing at the doorway of creation. Most people believe they wake up into a fixed world, a world already decided, already moving, already determined. But what if the moment you open your eyes is not an entrance into reality, but the moment reality waits for your command? There is a state you enter every morning, a delicate bridge between sleep and awareness. In that space, you are not reacting. You are not remembering. You are not limited. You are pure creative power. And whatever you accept as true in that sacred window becomes the script of your day. If you learn to control your morning state, you will no longer chase outcomes. You will produce them. This is not motivation. This is law. And today, you are about to understand how to use it. The moment you awaken is not a casual transition from sleep into activity. It is the most creative moment of your entire day. In that quiet space, before movement, before conversation, before memory fully returns, you are suspended between worlds. And in that suspension, the first feeling you accept becomes the seed of the hours ahead. Most people underestimate this moment. They open their eyes and immediately remember yesterday. They recall unfinished tasks, unresolved conversations, financial pressures, responsibilities waiting to be handled. And without realizing it, they accept a feeling, perhaps stress, perhaps frustration, perhaps urgency. That feeling is not innocent. It is formative. It becomes the atmosphere through which the entire day is filtered. Feeling is creative. Thought alone does not shape your day. It is the emotional acceptance of a thought that gives it power. When you wake and allow the feeling of, I have so much to deal with, to settle into your body, you are not simply observing reality. You are instructing it. The world will mirror the tone you establish within yourself. If your first feeling is tension, events will appear that justify tension. If your first feeling is confidence, circumstances will organize to confirm it. This is not coincidence. It is correspondence. The first feeling forms the lens. Imagine placing colored glass before your eyes. If the glass is dark, everything appears dim. If the glass is golden, everything appears warm. The world has not changed. Your perception has. And perception determines reaction. Reaction determines behavior. And behavior shapes outcome. But it begins deeper than behavior. It begins with identity. In the first moments of waking, you are deciding who you are for the day, not verbally, but emotionally. Are you the overwhelmed one, the overlooked one, the striving one? Or are you the favored one, the capable one, the one for whom things unfold naturally? You do not become this identity through effort during the day. You assume it in feeling before the day begins. When you wake, there is a softness in consciousness. The rational mind has not yet fully taken control. In that softness, impressions sink deeply. That is why the first feeling carries such power. It bypasses resistance. It enters directly into the subconscious and begins arranging conditions to match it. So instead of allowing memory to dictate your mood, choose deliberately. Before moving your body, claim the emotional tone you prefer. If you desire success, feel successful. Not because you see proof, but because you understand cause and effect. If you desire peace, feel relieved and settled. If you desire recognition, feel valued already. Do not wait for the day to give you permission to feel well. Give yourself permission first. This is not pretending. It is selecting. You are not ignoring reality. You are creating it at its source. The outer world is an echo chamber. It responds to the dominant feeling sustained within you. And the easiest time to establish that dominance is at the beginning. Consider how different your experiences would be if you rose each morning with quiet certainty. Not loud excitement, not forced positivity, but calm conviction. A simple inner knowing that today unfolds in your favor. That feeling alone would alter your posture, your tone of voice, your decisions. Others would respond differently. Opportunities would seem more visible. Solutions would appear more naturally, and you would say it was coincidence, when in truth, it was the outpicturing of your morning state. The day does not randomly assign experiences. It reflects internal order. Even if yesterday felt disappointing, today is untouched clay. The past has no authority unless you emotionally revive it. The first feeling either resurrects yesterday's story or initiates a new one. If you wake and feel, it's going to be another difficult day. You have unconsciously signed a contract with difficulty. But if you wake and feel, something is aligning for me, you have shifted the script before the first scene plays out. The key is persistence. One controlled morning can feel powerful, but a pattern of controlled mornings reshapes an entire life. When the first feeling becomes habitually confident, grateful, assured, reality must reorganize in lasting ways. It is subtle work, invisible work, but it is the most important work. Master the first 60 seconds, and you influence the next 16 hours. Master the first feeling, and you direct the unfolding of events without strain. So tomorrow, before your feet touch the floor, pause. Notice the feeling rising automatically. And if it does not serve you, replace it. Gently, intentionally. Claim the state you wish to see expressed. Let it settle naturally into your body. Let it become familiar. And then rise, not as someone reacting to the world, but as someone who has already determined how the world will respond. For the first feeling does not merely accompany the day, it forms it. Nothing appears in your world without first being accepted within you. What you experience outwardly is not an accident, nor is it a random arrangement of independent events. It is the natural consequence of what you have inwardly assumed to be true, long before something becomes visible, tangible, and undeniable. It existed as a quiet conviction within your consciousness. Assumption always precedes manifestation. Most people believe they must see something before they can believe it. They wait for evidence to grant themselves permission to feel secure, successful, loved, or chosen. But this reverses the order of creation. The visible world is not the cause, it is the effect. The cause is assumption, the inward acceptance of a state as real. When you assume something to be true, you do not merely entertain a thought. You emotionally consent to it. You embody it. You allow it to define your expectations. And expectation subtly governs perception, reaction, and opportunity. The world then reorganizes itself in harmony with that expectation. Assumption is not effort. It is identity. For example, if you assume you are someone who is overlooked, life will present situations that appear to confirm that belief. You will notice slights more quickly. You will interpret neutral actions as dismissive. You will unconsciously behave in ways that reinforce that position. And eventually, you will point to the evidence and say, see, this always happens to me, yet the cycle began within. On the other hand, if you assume you are valued and respected, your posture shifts, your tone shifts, your expectations shift. You enter rooms differently. You interpret silence differently. And people respond to the version of you that you have already accepted yourself to be. The outer does not create the inner. The inner projects onto the outer. This is why deliberate assumption is power. To assume deliberately is to decide before proof appears who you are and how life responds to you. It is to inwardly declare the end result as present fact. Not in arrogance, not in fantasy, but in calm conviction. If you desire success, do not strive anxiously toward it. Assume you are already the successful one. Feel what that version of you feels. Walk as that one walks. Speak as that one speaks. The manifestation is simply the delayed echo of that accepted identity. Time is the bridge between assumption and visibility. Many abandon their assumption because they do not see immediate change. But manifestation is not instant rearrangement. It is a sequence of events aligning in harmony with your inner state. The seed does not become a tree overnight. But once planted, growth is inevitable. The mistake is digging up the seed to check if it is working. When you assume something with persistence, reality must conform. The how is not your concern. The when is not your burden. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the chosen state until it hardens into fact. This does not mean ignoring challenges. It means interpreting them differently. When obstacles appear, instead of concluding your assumption failed, recognize them as remnants of a previous state dissolving. Stay aligned with the new identity. Do not emotionally return to the old one. Assumption shapes expectation. Expectation shapes perception. Perception shapes action. Action shapes outcome. An outcome appears to confirm what you believed all along. You are not changing the world by force. You are changing your concept of yourself, and the world reflects that shift. The most powerful assumptions are those about identity. I am fortunate. I am supported. I am the one for whom things work out. When these statements move beyond repetition and become felt truth, life rearranges in quiet, almost mysterious ways. Opportunities arise naturally. Meetings occur at the right time. Ideas come effortlessly. Doors open without struggle. And it feels as though the world is cooperating because it is. Not because it chose to favor you randomly, but because you chose to assume favor first. Assumption precedes manifestation, just as a blueprint precedes a building. The structure cannot deviate from the design. Likewise, your experiences cannot consistently contradict your dominant state. They may appear delayed, but they will not defy it. So ask yourself, what have you been assuming about your life? Have you been assuming limitation, delay, rejection? Or have you been assuming expansion, alignment, and success? The good news is these assumptions are chosen. They are not fixed. At any moment, you may select a new one. And once accepted with feeling, that new assumption begins constructing a new reality. Decide the end. Accept it inwardly. Feel it as present truth. Then live your day from that conviction rather than toward it. For what you assume today becomes what you experience tomorrow. And what you persist in assuming becomes the life you call inevitable. There is a principle few truly understand. Your state of consciousness is greater than any circumstance you face. What surrounds you at this moment is not the ultimate authority in your life. It is not the final word. It is not the cause. It is the effect. The true cause is the state you occupy within. Most people live as though circumstances possess power. They believe money determines confidence, relationships determine happiness, and success determines self-worth. They wait for the outer world to change before granting themselves permission to feel differently. But this approach keeps them bound because they are attempting to change effects while ignoring the cause. Circumstances do not create your state. Your state creates circumstances. A state is more than a passing mood. It is a settled inner position. It is the lens through which you interpret reality. It is the identity you inhabit without conscious effort. And once you occupy a state long enough, life begins to reflect it with precision. If you are in a state of lack, you will see limitation everywhere. Even opportunity will appear risky or insufficient. If you are in a state of rejection, neutral interactions will feel personal. If you are in a state of fear, harmless events will appear threatening. The world will seem to confirm your interpretation again and again, not because it is inherently that way, but because you are viewing it from a specific inner position. Change the state, and the same world looks different. Two people can stand in identical circumstances, yet experience entirely different realities. One sees setback, the other sees redirection. One sees scarcity, the other sees potential. The difference is not in the environment, it is in the state. When you understand this, you stop fighting conditions directly. Instead of asking, how do I fix this situation? You ask, from what state am I perceiving this? Because the state determines both your reaction and the unfolding outcome. Imagine attempting to solve a problem while remaining in the emotional state that created it. Frustration breeds more confusion. Fear narrows perception. Doubt blocks clarity. But when you shift into a state of calm certainty, solutions become visible that were previously hidden. The outer world is a mirror, not a master. If you look into a mirror with a frown and attempt to change the reflection by touching the glass, nothing happens. But if you change your expression, the reflection instantly follows. So too with life. Trying to manipulate circumstances without altering your state is like arguing with the mirror. This is why control of your inner state is true power. Not suppression of emotion, not denial of facts, but conscious selection of identity. You may face financial pressure. You may encounter misunderstanding. You may experience delay. Yet you can still choose to occupy the state of stability, confidence, and favor. This is not pretending the challenge does not exist. It is refusing to let it define you. When you remain inwardly stable, despite outward instability, you shift from being an effect to being a cause. A state, once sustained, compels rearrangement. People respond differently to you. Ideas emerge. Timing aligns. What seemed fixed begins to soften. The same circumstances that once felt oppressive start dissolving because you are no longer feeding them with the same emotional energy. Persistence is essential. You cannot visit a new state briefly and expect immediate transformation. Just as circumstances were formed by a previously sustained state, new conditions require continued alignment. But once the new state becomes natural, the outer must adjust. The mistake many make is reacting to appearances. They adopt a confident state in the morning, then abandon it at the first sign of contradiction. But appearances are echoes of old states. If you react emotionally, you revive them. If you remain steady, they fade. State over circumstance means that inner authority is greater than outer evidence. You do not deny what you see. You reinterpret it. You understand it as temporary, as transitional, as a shadow of something once assumed. And you remain faithful to the new position you have chosen. Ask yourself, who would you be if circumstances did not intimidate you? How would you think if you knew conditions were fluid? How would you move if you understood that your inner state is the mold shaping tomorrow? That version of you exists now, not in the future, but as a selectable state. Enter it deliberately. Even if your bank account has not changed, feel secure. Even if recognition has not appeared, feel valued. Even if harmony has not yet formed, feel peace. The outer world does not demand proof before changing. It responds to the dominant vibration of your consciousness. The state you persist in becomes the story you live. And when you finally understand that your inner climate determines your outer weather, you stop fearing storms. You realize you are the atmosphere itself. Circumstances are temporary formations. Your state is the creative power behind them. Choose wisely, persist gently, and watch as the world reorganizes itself to match the version of you have decided to be. Everything in your life flows from one silent decision: who you believe yourself to be, not who you say you are in conversation, not who you hope to become someday, but who you inwardly accept yourself to be right now. Identity is the real power. It is the root from which every experience grows. You do not attract what you want. You express what you are. If deep within you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will find struggle woven into your story. If you identify as someone overlooked, opportunities may pass unnoticed or feel inaccessible. If you believe you must fight for everything, life will appear as a battlefield. These patterns are not punishments. They are reflections of identity. Identity is not formed by circumstances. It forms circumstances. Many attempt to change their lives by changing actions alone. They work harder, plan more carefully, try new strategies. Yet beneath the effort remains the same self-concept. And because the identity has not shifted, results either remain the same or eventually return to familiar patterns. True transformation does not begin with behavior. It begins with self-definition. Ask yourself, who am I being in my own mind? Am I the one who always figures it out, or the one who doubts? Am I the one who is chosen, or the one who waits to be selected? Am I the one who succeeds naturally, or the one who expects obstacles? The answer to these quiet questions shapes everything. When you adopt a new identity, you do not need to force change. Behavior adjusts automatically. Reactions shift effortlessly. Confidence feels natural rather than rehearsed. You stop trying to prove yourself because you are no longer questioning who you are. Identity determines expectation. If you identify as healthy, you naturally make choices aligned with vitality. If you identify as prosperous, you think from abundance rather than toward it. If you identify as loved, you interpret interactions through security rather than fear. The outer world simply mirrors this settled conviction. The most powerful identity statements begin with, I am. These words are not casual. They are declarations of creative authority. Whatever follows them becomes a lens through which reality is filtered. I am unlucky. I am behind. I am not enough. These statements may seem harmless, but repeated internally, they crystallize into experience. Now imagine the shift. I am supported. I am capable. I am the one for whom things work out. When these statements move beyond repetition and become felt truths, your world begins to rearrange. Not instantly, perhaps, but inevitably. Identity is not arrogance. It is alignment. To claim a powerful identity does not mean denying growth. It means choosing the version of yourself you wish to embody and stepping into it now rather than waiting for proof. You do not become confident after success. You succeed after becoming confident. You do not feel worthy after recognition. You are recognized after feeling worthy. The world responds to who you are being, not what you are requesting. Many ask for change while clinging to an identity that contradicts their desire. They want abundance, but see themselves as lacking. They want respect, but identify as insignificant. They want love, but believe they are unworthy. The conflict between desire and identity delays manifestation. When identity aligns with desire, resistance dissolves. Consider the simplicity of it. If you truly believed you were destined for success, how would you think today? How would you speak? How would you interpret setbacks? They would feel temporary, almost irrelevant, because your identity would be larger than any single event. That is the power of self-concept. It creates stability. It creates resilience. It creates direction. And most importantly, it creates expectation. Life bends toward expectation. Identity must be claimed internally before it is confirmed externally. This requires persistence. At first, the old self-concept may attempt to reassert itself. Doubt may whisper. Memory may argue. But you are not obligated to remain who you were. Identity is chosen. Each morning, you stand at the threshold of self-definition. You can revive the familiar version of yourself, the one shaped by past experiences. Or you can assume the identity of the person you intend to become. Do not wait for life to upgrade your self-concept. Upgrade it first. Walk as though you are already the one you seek to be. Think from that place. Feel from that place. Decide from that place. The outer world will gradually align because it cannot consistently contradict your dominant identity. You are not powerless in your story. You are the author through self-definition. And when you finally understand that identity is the real power, you stop asking, how do I get what I want? And begin asking, who must I be to experience it? Become that inwardly, deliberately, consistently, and reality will have no choice but to agree. The true test of power is not in choosing a new state. It is in remaining faithful to it. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment. Anyone can declare a new identity in a surge of motivation. But creation does not respond to temporary emotion. It responds to sustained conviction. To persist in the chosen state is to understand that reality bends not to intensity, but to consistency. When you deliberately assume a new state, whether it is confidence, abundance, peace, or success, you have planted a seed. But a seed demands time beneath the soil before it breaks the surface. If you dig it up daily to check its progress, you interrupt its growth. So too with your inner assumptions. The moment you abandon your chosen state, because outer evidence has not yet shifted, you return to the very condition you intended to leave behind. Persistence is loyalty to your own decision. The outer world is often delayed. It reflects previous states long after you have moved beyond them internally. This delay confuses many. They assume that because circumstances have not changed immediately, their inner work has failed. But appearances are echoes. They are the fading shadows of former beliefs. If you react emotionally to them, you revive the old state and extend its life. Instead, remain unmoved. If you have chosen to see yourself as successful, do not surrender that identity when faced with temporary obstacles. If you have chosen to see yourself as supported, do not abandon that conviction when someone disappoints you. If you have chosen abundance, do not retreat into fear at the sight of a bill. The state you persist in becomes natural. What is natural feels effortless, and what feels natural manifests with ease. At first, persistence requires awareness. You must notice when your thoughts drift back into familiar patterns. You must catch the subtle return of doubt or insecurity. But this is not a battle. It is a gentle redirection. Each time you notice the old state resurfacing, you calmly return to the chosen one. This repetition is not strain. It is reinforcement. Think of it as tuning an instrument. The first adjustment may not hold perfectly, but with careful attention, the tone stabilizes. Eventually, the instrument stays in harmony without constant correction. Likewise, when you persist in a new identity long enough, it becomes your default. And once a state becomes your default, reality reorganizes permanently. Many desire change, but do not persist long enough to see it solidify. They adopt confidence for a day, then revert at the first sign of contradiction. They claim abundance for a week, then panic when results seem slow. They choose peace, then react impulsively to conflict. In doing so, they interrupt the formation of a new pattern. The outer world responds to dominance. Whichever state dominates your awareness most consistently will express itself in tangible form. It is not the occasional doubt that matters. It is the prevailing belief. If confidence dominates doubt, confidence manifests. If fear dominates hope, fear manifests. Persistence ensures dominance. When you persist in the chosen state, you begin to interpret events differently. Challenges become temporary. Delays become redirection. Silence becomes preparation. You no longer see opposition. You see unfolding. This shift in interpretation prevents emotional backsliding. Faithfulness to your chosen state creates emotional stability. You stop riding the highs and lows of circumstances because you understand they are transitional. You are no longer reacting to the mirror, you are shaping it. And as this understanding deepens, patience replaces anxiety. Patience is not passive. It is confident expectation. It is knowing that what you have assumed inwardly must eventually appear outwardly. Not because you force it, but because law demands it. The unseen always precedes the seen. The internal always produces the external. Persist gently, not rigidly. There is no need to strain or obsess. Simply return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let it be your resting place. Let it become familiar territory. When doubt arises, do not fight it. Outgrow it by reaffirming who you have chosen to be. Consistency transforms identity. Identity transforms experience. And one day, without dramatic announcement, you will notice that what once felt imagined now feels ordinary. The desired state will have solidified into fact, not by force, not by chance, but by sustained alignment. The world will call it luck. Others may call it timing. But you will understand the truth. You remained loyal to your inner decision long enough for reality to comply. So choose your state wisely. Then persist in it calmly, confidently, and without wavering. For what you persist in, you become. And what you become, you inevitably experience. The world you experience is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every morning is a reset point, a divine opportunity, a silent agreement between your consciousness and the day ahead. And the terms of that agreement are decided within you. If you rise in power, power follows. If you rise in certainty, events rearrange themselves to confirm it. If you rise fulfilled, fulfillment finds its way to you. The outer world has no initiative of its own. It reflects, it echoes, it obeys the dominant state you occupy. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for anything outside yourself, reach inward. Choose your state. Claim your identity. Feel the end before the beginning unfolds. And then walk into the day not as someone hoping for a miracle, but as someone who understands they are the cause. Control your morning state, and reality has no choice but to comply. If this message resonated with you, if something within you shifted even slightly, then you already understand the power you hold. Thank you for spending these moments investing in your consciousness. Thank you for choosing awareness over reaction. And most of all, thank you for being willing to rise deliberately. If this spoke to you, stay connected. Return to this message in the morning. Let it remind you of who you truly are. Your state is your power. Your awareness is your authority. And your reality is waiting for your command. Until next time, rise consciously.